Hi, I'm Sami. Welcome to Into Alignment and Conscious Health Practice. I've been asked, what do you do when something happens and you're really upset in the moment and you can't do anything about it? And it's an interesting question because I think it raises a number of different points. So firstly, even when you do a lot of work and a lot of self-development and you really understand your emotions and you really have lots of different practices and skills and techniques and tools, you still get upset. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with feeling some upset. The most important thing is to process your emotions and to release emotions. It's when we hold on to emotions that we become ill and we're not resourced to be able to deal with the problems that we're faced with. So the first thing is that being upset is okay. But obviously we want to have a choice about how we deal with our emotions or with the situation. Now what happens when we're triggered, and I'll talk in another video about triggers, but what happens when something triggers us into behaving in a certain way? We may not even understand the deeper connection that this has happened before and that this is something that I have a way of responding to. But when something happens that we instantly feel that we are triggered into a new behaviour, the thing to remember is that it's difficult to make a choice, it's difficult to reason, and it's difficult to be creative and to be fully resourced once that trigger's happened. So once something has happened and you're upset or angry or frustrated or emotional in any way that you would prefer not to be, having a choice is very difficult because we're not in our forebrain, we're not actually in the cognitive part of our brain that allows us to make a choice. So we're in the hindbrain and we're actually in survival mode, and our strategies that we've developed are geared to actually help us to survive, which doesn't really help us to think about how we'd like to react. So what I've realised I use more than any other tool is now a combination of what I've learned from heart math and the heart math breathing techniques and resilience building techniques, and some simple thinking and questioning from clean language. And again, I'll talk more about those another time, but if you want to look them up, that's where this combined tool comes from. So because we can't reason and we can't think when we're triggered, we need to be able to come out of that triggered response, and that's not easy to do if we can't think about what we want and choose. So trying to change it with your mindset's very hard. And what heart math teach is that by using our physiology and using the field of the heart, we can actually change our thoughts by sending new messages from the heart to the brain. So really we're taking a different route in through our physiology, which is the quickest and most powerful route in to changing our thinking and to changing the way in which we can think and function efficiently and effectively. So by breathing in and out of the heart, I allow my heart to go into coherence, and this creates an ordered sine wave from the heart, which then begins to send new messages to my brain. When that happens, and it's very quick, then I actually allow myself to come out of that survival reactive mode, and I actually allow my brain to go into a more facilitated mode where I can actually think properly, and my left and my right hemispheres work together properly so I can see the bigger picture and I can see the detail and I can see things much more clearly. And in this state I'm much more able to reason and to be creative and to look at all the other options that I don't see when I'm so focused on what that problem is or focused on finding a solution because I'm in a different mindset. So what happens when we do that and we change the physiology is I actually enter into a much more facilitated and much more resourceful state. When I'm in that more resourceful state, what I was fully focused on when I was in stress may actually now expand out and to give me lots of different other options that I couldn't find. So when we're in stress, we're very focused, we're very foveal, we're very geared to, I must fix this. But in fact, because we're in a stress mode, we don't see all the other options. So going into this state, we actually now become much more aware of all the possibilities and all the other options. And now that I'm able to think properly, I can be creative and I can actually look at all the other options that are available. So a very good thing to do once we've done that breathing that puts us into that state is to ask, and I ask myself this question a lot now, instead of whinging about the problem and saying and trying to control other people, which we can't do. We can't control other people. We can only control ourselves and actually get an understanding of and choice about what we want to feel and how we want to act. So instead of them being focused on the problem or the person or the issue or the thing that I can't affect and I'm triggered by, once I'm in a full facilitated, full brain capacity and I'm able to think properly, I can ask myself, okay, what would I like to have happen? And that is knowing that I can't make somebody do something and knowing that I might not be able to change the circumstances of what's going on. What would I like to have happen allows me to look at how I'd like to feel, how I'd like to be, and what I would like to do in order to begin to change not just the problem, but perhaps even the way I handle this kind of problem. So if you get into the habit of asking yourself, what would I like to have happen? This actually helps in our neurology, because instead of, it's like the path that is not walked so often at the moment. If we keep going over the problem, we're walking the same path, and that path gets stronger and stronger. So our neurology creates stronger and stronger neural network connections to the problem. If I start asking myself what would I like to have happen, I actually start to take myself into a different way of thinking, and I start to build new neural networks. And now I'm starting to learn how to problem solve and how to think differently. So I still get upset, I still have triggers. I have learned to understand that when the trigger's up here, it's connected to something that may not be quite so obvious, but now I'm understanding myself, I get what it's about. But I still need to learn how to act and respond in the moment. And I don't want to be the kind of person that I used to be, that shouted and screamed and got upset and blamed other people for how I was feeling. I want to be able to take responsibility, but it's more than responsibility, it's actually to have an effect on my own health. So this technique I'm going to do with you now is a way of taking responsibility, and it's a way of coming out of stress, and ultimately it will help you to not only change the way that you respond in the moment to things you can't control, but it will help you to learn and educate your brain into thinking in new ways. And it'll also help you to raise your threshold of the way in which you respond to stress. So you'll raise your capacity for resilience and being able to manage stress in a very different way. Okay. Now what I've noticed is, although the exercise begins with breathing and it begins with being able to bring your awareness to your breath, that also can be difficult if you're triggered. So the thing to focus on first, right at the beginning, is the first breath. Don't worry about what happens next, it'll happen. So my focus now is on the first breath of, instead of going out at someone else or even in and blaming myself, the first step is, as soon as I notice I'm going into a stress response and I feel my heart rate increasing, I feel my pulse increasing, and I feel my muscles tensing, and I feel my emotions rising up, the first thing to do is to just take that first breath and bring your awareness into the heart. So just that deep, okay, this is my breath. I'm just going to take this split second to almost step back and actually just come into my own energy. Okay? So we're not being a victim anymore now, we've made a choice. So we take that first breath into the heart. You don't need to put your hand on your heart. I find it anchors and connects that feeling for me quite quickly. But you may be driving, you may be holding something, you may be with people and you don't want it to be so obvious. You're doing this internal ownership and stress release. So the trick is to just recognize notice what has happened, become aware and acknowledge what has happened. So this is the acknowledgement of the fact that you've been triggered. So breathe in and give yourself a chance to now bring your awareness to the heart. You can still carry on talking to the person if it's a person. Bring your awareness into the heart. Acknowledge the trigger and now just breathe in and out of the heart. So you're bringing your awareness into the heart, and I'm breathing in. Directly the breath is going in and out of my heart. I'm imagining my heart and the breath going in and out. The next thing to do as I do that, just notice how that allows my physiology to change, how my heart rate changes, how my body feels different, how my shoulders can relax, how my muscles can relax, and how rather than the obsessive thinking of the emotion and what that's bringing up, I'm now able to just have a moment of peace and quiet within my own thoughts and think, okay, just focus on my heart. And when I feel that shift into that calm, then I can ask myself, okay, with all that I know about this, what would I like to have happen? And that might just be right in this moment right now. And that might be just enough to say, okay, so I don't want to argue, I don't want to fall out, or I don't want to get upset about this, but you see now my physiology is different, and my heart, which is the largest, most powerful electromagnetic field in my human energy system, my heart actually regulates the rest of my body, including the brain and including my capacity to think. So now that I have allowed my heart to take the lead, now I can actually think and explain myself. So I'm not kind of gibbering and actually getting upset. Any emotions that might come up, it's okay to cry, but at least now if I want to cry or I want to release any tears, I don't have to start screaming and blubbering and bringing out the drama of the emotion. I can just understand the emotion better. So now I can ask, what would I like to have happen? Initially, just in this situation, that might be as simple as saying, maybe we just need 2 minutes, or maybe we could talk about this a bit more calmly. I think I'd like us to calm down. Now, it's true, you can't be responsible for the other person's response, but I can guarantee you that if 2 people are upset, it's very hard to calm down. When one calms down, the other person may take a little time, but you've got much more chance that that person will calm down too. So if you lead the behaviour you would like to see, then you are much more likely to calm the whole situation down. So we can't be responsible for the way someone else behaves, much as we'd like to. And whatever you're being confronted with, this is about being able to have an impact on your own health and on yourself, so that you can have a different outcome, maybe a more resourceful outcome. So imagine that you are using this technique with dealing with children, dealing with colleagues or people at work, dealing with difficult people that you meet in the street. It can be really anything, or just dealing with something that is your own trigger inside yourself, where you're doing something and you're annoyed. The computer, ours is the printer quite often at the moment. So anything that comes up that you just get that feeling coming up in your body, okay? And the thing to bear in mind is people talk about the body-mind connection, okay? It's not a connection, they are one in the same thing. And we're just using a different route in here to being able to help our mind and our emotions by going in through our physiology. So instantly that we notice and acknowledge, then we are able to actually start to be able to breathe and choose how we'd like to respond. So this is something that you could practice just by yourself, just focusing on things that you're finding difficult and seeing if you can get a different mindset. But ultimately, this is a really good tool for using really in the moment when you need it. So we're going to have a practice now. And I'd like you to just think of something that has been a bit stressful for you of late. Just something that the person you're going to meet that you know is a bit difficult to deal with, or a situation that you find slightly difficult. And just allow yourself to be aware of that problem. And we're not going to go into the problem. We're just going to notice how knowing that we have that problem affects our physiology. And just notice what happens, what you start to think, what you start to feel, what you start to experience in your emotions. And we're just going to take that deep breath in and let our breath settle. And now we're going to breathe in and out of the heart. And it doesn't really matter if that's in through the mouth or the nose. The point is to change the breath, the length of the breath, and how regular the breath is. And our focus and our awareness is in the heart area. So now we're breathing into the heart and out of the heart. And I'm not thinking about the problem now, I'm thinking about my breath. Breathing into the heart and out of the heart. And notice already how my physiology is changing. Notice how the breath allows my heart to change, and my heart rate variability is now going from chaotic into an ordered sine wave, and that will send new messages to the brain that will allow me to come out of that fight-flight response, out of that very foveal, very focused, blinkered way of thinking and looking at the problem, that panic of having to deal with it, that's all falling away. Breathing into the heart and out of the heart. And in and out. And the more you do this, the more you will practice doing this when you're with somebody, when you're in a situation where you don't particularly want to make a big deal about the fact that you're doing it. It's not a, excuse me, just a moment, I need to do my heart breathing, just wait there, just shut up. Okay, we need to be able to do this internally. Okay, oh, I feel that coming up. Okay, breathe. Drop down into the heart and breathe in and out. So give yourself that first breath and then follow it by allowing yourself to move into the heart. Now that I am more calm, I'm coming out of fight flight, I'm coming more into the cortical area of the brain where I can think and reason. I'm more balanced, I'm more creative, much more resourced at being able to see the bigger picture, but also see maybe some of the detail of what needs to happen. Now I can ask myself, what would I like to have happen? And that question is initially, in this moment, right now, at this point in time, what would I like? I don't want to be that screaming person I used to be. I want to be somebody who's able to say, okay, so maybe we need to talk more about this, or maybe this isn't working, maybe we need to go away and have a think, or whatever it is that is required to be able to create a win-win situation for all involved, because that's ultimately the best way to resolve an issue. What would I like to have happen? That question can then start to become a bigger question. Knowing what I know about this whole sorry situation, or this whole complicated or difficult situation that's getting more and more complicated or not resolved, or I'm not handling it, as a longer term goal, what would I like to have happen? Actually, maybe we need to think about the longer term picture with this problem. Okay, so we're doing an acknowledgement of what's happened. We're breathing in and out of the heart, and we're choosing to move into solution-oriented thinking. I'm rewiring my brain to help me to become a problem solver, more of a thinker, and more of a person that can look at the bigger picture rather than stay stuck in the rut that I've been in up until now. So maybe you'd like to think about how you could use this. Is there a situation that keeps popping up for you that you'd like to use this in? I'd really like to hear about situations where you have found this useful, so I'm going to set a challenge that you have a go at this for a week. I have another bigger challenge coming up, but for now, maybe you'd like to try this ABC. Acknowledge that you have been triggered, breathe in and out of the heart, and then choose by asking yourself, what would I like to have happen? Practice and let me know what you think, and let me know what's happened and how this has helped you. I'd be really interested to see if you notice a change from how you have been handling that situation to now how you handle it with this tool. Okay, you can email me, sam@intoalignment.com, or you can add comments at the bottom, and I look forward to hearing from you.